The state of Minnesota is now requiring that all high school students within their health class be exposed to adult and child CPR and how to use an AED, which stands for Automated External Defibrillator. Although you will not become certified in the use of an AED or in CPR, you are going to be exposed and introduced on how to properly perform and how to properly use some of the different techniques. So right now we're going to talk about cardiac emergencies. It's important that you also understand that there are some embedded videos that are going to be showing up within this screencast, and then ultimately you're going to be exposed to how to properly perform adult and child CPR. When we look at cardiac emergencies, the two most common types, as you can see in this PowerPoint, are heart attack and cardiac arrest. Many of you have probably known someone within your life, a loved one, a relative, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, etc., that has had a heart attack. Not all heart attacks are fatal. Many people can survive a heart attack, but what's really important is we understand what the signs and symptoms are, and we try to get those people help as soon as possible. Because the longer help is delayed, the more likely it is that a heart attack could possibly become cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest is when the heart completely stops circulating oxygenated blood. So cardiac arrest is definitely fatal, and cardiac arrest is at that point in time when we would perform CPR and also use an automated external defibrillator. When we look at a heart attack, it results when the blood and the oxygen supply to the heart, when it's reduced, usually from coronary heart disease. The number one killer in the country right now is coronary heart disease. We have people who are living longer and longer, but because of that, we have many people who are living with some form of heart disease. But when the blood is or when the heart is unable to pump blood and oxygen to various parts of the body, someone can suffer from a heart attack, where you have a partial or possibly even a complete blockage of a blood vessel in and around the heart. Many people will delay seeking care. Many people don't want to believe that they themselves are having a heart attack, so when they do start to show some of those early signs and symptoms, many times they go ignored or they're overlooked because, once again, many people don't want to believe that they themselves are having a heart attack. But if you know the signals, you can either help somebody else or possibly even help yourself.
I'm Rich Fellner.
I'm Brenda Beasley.
My name is Cherie Brackett.
My name is Thomas Beasley.
First symptom was severe indigestion, which was not fixed by an antacid.
First thing was the chest pain. I noticed that almost immediately. It was very uncomfortable. Felt like somebody was standing on my chest.
Seemed like it was getting tighter, like a fist was in there. It was like something was just crushing it.
Then came profuse sweating just out of nowhere.
Pain radiated right up into my jaw, and then down into my arm and fingertips.
And all of a sudden, you can't breathe, and you start sweating, and your chest started hurting. Something's wrong.
Then a sense of doom that the whole world was coming to an end.
Was very scared. Had decided that it was time to tell my wife. It was time to go to the hospital and, see if it was in fact what I feared, which was a heart attack.
I told my wife, I have never felt this way, and I was serious when I told her this too. I said, it's time to go. She probably looked at my face and said, he's not playing.
Sweating, he was sweating, and things that he never did before that made me know something was wrong.
It's important to know what to do when someone that you love becomes pale or sweaty and has chest pains.
It can happen to anybody, and it can happen overnight. It can happen in the blink of an eye. I'm just very glad to be here telling the story, and that I knew what to look for.
Sometimes I get a little emotional. When I talk about it, it's not usually a tear drop out my eye, because this was real serious.
So I immediately got help. I went to someone at the front of the store and asked them to call 911 for me. And within 15 minutes, I was in the hospital emergency room being treated for a heart attack.
Because it can happen at any time and anywhere. And you just don't know when it's going to happen.
I'm glad to be here today.
He's my beat. He's my beat. And I love him. I love him a lot.
So as you can tell by that video, many of those people were survivors of heart attacks and cardiac arrest. So we want to talk about now, or what are some of those signals that we want to pay attention to when someone's having a heart attack. The first thing you'll see is there's persistent chest pain. This is discomfort or pressure that's going to last for longer than 3 to 5 minutes or goes away and comes back. So once again, they talked about in the video a really tightness in the chest, almost as if somebody's sitting on your chest. It becomes very, very painful, difficult to breathe. It can range from discomfort to unbearable crushing sensation, maybe described as pressure, squeezing, tightness, aching, or heaviness. May start slowly as mild pain or discomfort, often felt in the center of the chest behind the sternum. Becomes constant, not usually relieved by resting or changing position or medication. And just so we also know, there are some people who will show none of these signs, but chest pain is the most obvious sign and symptom for all. Some other signals that someone might have, there'll be discomfort, pain or pressure in the shoulder, the arm, the neck, or the jaw, stomach, or the back. A lot of times that pain will radiate from the jaw into the shoulder, into the arm. It's in the center of the chest. The person maybe have a very difficult time breathing. They become pale, ashen, which would be like gray colored skin. They begin to sweat profusely. So moist skin from perspiration, shortness of breath, tightness in the chest. All of these would be symptoms of somebody having a heart attack. In women, they're going to have many of the same symptoms, but for some reason, women tend to have some symptoms that are a little bit different. They will have the chest pain. They'll have the shortness in breath. Some things that are different with the female, though, a lot of times it's almost flu-like, where they have a nausea and vomiting. A lot of times that's accompanied with the shortness of the breath and the chest discomfort. But also you'll notice back pain, jaw pain, unexplained fatigue, apathetic attitude. I just don't want to do anything. I just can't do. I just don't feel motivated to get things accomplished. Atypical chest pain, sudden, sharp, but short-lived pain outside of the breastbone. So these would be some signals for a female. How are we going to care for a heart attack? The most important thing is recognizing those signs and symptoms. We're going to call 911, have the person stop the activity. We're going to monitor them. We're going to be prepared to perform CPR and possibly use that AED, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Ask if they have a history of heart disease. Possibly offer them aspirin, because that helps with not only the pain, but it also helps if there's a clot or something to help dissolve that clot. Help keep them calm, reassure, loosen any restrictive clothing. Get information from bystanders, what's happening, is there a family history of this, get as much information as you can. Do not attempt to drive the person to the hospital yourself. You want to call 911. The reason why that is because if they do go into cardiac arrest and you're transporting that person in a car, it's very difficult for you to perform the necessary skills such as CPR and to properly use an AED. Angina, this is chest pain that comes and goes at different times. Seldom it's going to last for more than 3 to 5 minutes. The person may have a prescription for nitroglycerin that can be in a pill form, a patch form, possibly even like a nasal spray. If the pain lasts longer than 3 to 5 minutes, we'd call 911 because potentially they're having a heart attack. Typically people with angina, they've had it for a long period of time. It's pain that kind of comes and goes. It doesn't mean that they're having a heart attack, but it certainly means that it could. So that's why they take their medication, but we also kind of monitor the time. If it's lasting more than 3 to 5 minutes, we definitely want to make that phone call just to be safe. When someone goes into cardiac arrest, that could also be not only from a heart attack, but it could be for a variety of different reasons. If someone has cardiac arrest, the heart does stop beating, or it's beating too ineffectively to adequately pump blood to other parts of the body. Cardiovascular disease is the most common cause, but it's not the only cause. It is fatal. Care must be given. Can happen suddenly without any warning signals whatsoever. A person in cardiac arrest, they are unconscious, they are not breathing, they may have pale ashen or bluish skin, and they may be moist to the touch because of the perspiration or the shortness of breath that they had before the cardiac arrest. But definitely a life-threatening situation that does require immediate medical help.
Cardiac emergencies are life-threatening. Heart attack and cardiac arrest are major causes of illness and death in the United States. Following the cardiac chain of survival by recognizing the signals of a cardiac emergency, calling 911 or the local emergency number and giving immediate care saves lives. Performing CPR and using an automated external defibrillator, or AED, immediately after a person goes into cardiac arrest can greatly increase his or her chance of survival.
Oh, Jada. Sandra, help. It's Jada. Jada? bag, please. Jada, can you hear me? Jada. All right, looks like she's unconscious. Call 911.
There are 4 links in the cardiac chain of survival that guide any response to a cardiac emergency: early recognition and access to the emergency medical services system, early CPR, early defibrillation, and early advanced medical care. The first link in the cardiac chain of survival is early recognition and access to the EMS system. Recognizing a cardiac emergency and activating the emergency medical services system gets help on the way quickly. Early CPR is the second link in the cardiac chain of survival. Performing CPR keeps blood containing oxygen flowing to the brain and other vital organs. The third link in the cardiac chain of survival is early defibrillation. Early defibrillation from an automated external defibrillator, commonly called an AED, may help to establish an effective heart rhythm and significantly increase the patient's chance for survival.
Shock delivered.
Early advanced medical care is the fourth link in the cardiac chain of survival. Professional responders can provide the knowledge, equipment, and medications to continue the life-saving care you have already given. In a cardiac emergency, when every second counts, responding quickly using the 4 links in the cardiac chain of survival can mean the difference between life and death.
Once again, that video was talking about the cardiac chain of survival, but the most important thing is that person who is having a heart attack, or more importantly, they are in cardiac arrest. They need advanced medical help as quickly as possible. But the only way they're going to get that help is you as a responder need to recognize some of those signs and symptoms that we've already talked about. A person has the greatest chance for survival when the cardiac chain of survival happens as rapidly as possible, keeping in mind that many times you are the first link. You're the one that's with the person, you're at the restaurant, you're at the shopping mall, you're watching the ball game when something happened. Someone has to make that first initial sign to find that something is wrong. We need to make a phone call. Someone has to start CPR, someone has to start using an AED, and that advanced medical care needs to get there as quickly as possible. Research does show us right now that for every 1 minute that help is delayed, it's going to delay the chance of survival by as much as 10%. So if you do the math on that, if we're waiting 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes before help is going to arrive, we are greatly reducing the chances of that person surviving whatever the event is. As you notice right here, this is adult CPR. I'm going to stop the screencast and we'll start another screencast where we'll talk about the proper way to perform adult CPR and also watch a short video on how to perform that as well.